Is there a doctor in the house?
Doctor, you have a visitor in the main lobby.
Well, hello and welcome to today's Talk to the Doc podcast. I'm your host, Steve the Dr. Meek, and the doctor is in. So welcome back to the show, my friends. I'm so glad you're here. Today's episode is it's kind of a must listen for anyone who's ever felt kind of stuck in the weeds of running a business, who's ever wondered, is there a better way to grow, without losing my mind or my weekends? So today we've got a very special guest. We're joined by somebody who's walked the road herself and also walked the road with business leaders of various sizes. We have a scaling up coach and business strategist, Stacy, with us today. And she's here to talk to us about what it really takes to grow a company that's not just bigger, but better, more valuable, more self-sufficient, and maybe even set up for a successful exit down the road. So I'm virtually looking at Stacy Eads. Stacy, you want to introduce yourself?
Steve, you did such a wonderful job introducing me. I'm so excited to be able to be here. Thank you for asking me to be on the podcast. As Steve mentioned, I'm Stacy Eads, and I'm a scaling up business coach. I'm also a keynote speaker, and what I love to do is help entrepreneurs. So that's what I'm hoping we can do here today.
Awesome. And her accolades go further than that. I like her so much. I kind of feel like it's one of those hair club for men moments. I liked it so much, I bought the company. But it's when I was looking for a business coach, I looked all throughout DFW and Texas, and I couldn't find one that I liked. And so I had to step outside the state borders to find Stacy over in Oklahoma.
Yes, we're just a short little drive from DFW, but I am technically here in Oklahoma.
Awesome. And today we're going to talk to you a little bit about why you need to stop surviving and start scaling. So she's going to be taking us through what every leader needs to kind of hear in 2025. So get us started, Stacy. What do you think we need to focus on or think about or be talking about before we get going here?
Well, right now, the news changes daily for business owners. Literally week to week, you have a different headline about supply chains and tariffs or not tariffs, and everything is changing every single day in your world. So I think it's really imperative that business owners have a team of people around them, whether that's mentors or advisors or some sort of a group of peers, or maybe it's your leadership team. Maybe you've grown that you have a boardroom and a leadership team around you, but lean on those people. Start asking questions. Start thinking about how these external factors impact you, and just start that conversation, because otherwise it's in your head. And then every night when you're trying to go to sleep, those are the things that are keeping you awake at night.
Absolutely. Well, Stacy, as you know, I am a fake doctor. So as a fake doctor, I'd like to actually get some real vitals from you. When you think about what's going on in the economy, what's going on with small businesses right now, what's the pulse? Kind of what's the current state of what you're seeing out there?
What I find really interesting is that there's 11,000 startups every single hour that are happening in the world.
Wow.
Every hour, there's 11,000 startups. And there's a whole ecosystem and a whole community for those startups, right? There's grants and there's different incubators that they can go to. There seems to be one on every block over the last 5 or 6 years. But what about the people like you and I? What about the people who've grown a small business? They have been there and done that 10 years, 15 years. Maybe they've put 20 years of blood, sweat, and tears into this company. Where's their community? Where's the people who rally around them and help them understand that what got them here won't get them there? But how do they bridge the gap? How do they build the roadmap of where they want to grow to and where they want to scale to? Those are the people that I like to talk with, because the startups, they have an ecosystem and they have a lot of people supporting them. But what about the scale ups that are out there? The ones that are looking to grow and do bigger and do better, but they've been doing it. They've been around the block a time or two. They're just ready for the next step.
I definitely, as a small business owner myself, I find, maybe in the words of Jim Collins, that sustained greatness is extremely difficult. It's great to be a rock star for a year or 2 years, but when you hit 10 years or 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, how do you keep that intensity up? So let's talk a little bit about the heart rate. What performance metrics tell the story for you right now?
What's really interesting is that I'm a part of a movement. So when you talk about heart rate and the beat of what we do, the performance metric, there's actually 80,000 companies that are utilizing the scaling up program, the tools, or a coach, and they're doing that worldwide. They're doing that in several different countries in lots of different languages. And although I really enjoy being a coach, I'm just one of many. Right? There's actually about 180 of us at this time, and we really enjoy diving deep with entrepreneurs and business owners and making sure that we hit their metrics. What is it that they want to do to grow? Are they trying to 10x their company, or are they really ecstatic if they could 2x, their EBITDA this year? What is it that they're looking for? And we do like to make sure that they're taking a look at metrics that matter, right? So a lot of revenue growth, like revenue is vanity, and profit is where sanity happens, where you finally get to lay your head on the pillow and feel a little bit of sleep. But cash is king. And in the economy and where we're at right now, cash is a lot of where clients are focused. So I do try to make sure that the metrics that I'm holding myself to are really my clients' metrics. What are they holding themselves to? And then just make sure that I'm guiding them that we're following the right metrics, the ones that are actually going to turn the key and get them to the next step.
Gotcha. So I like your whole making sure you're focusing on the things that matter. Absolutely. Early on, I was always so happy about revenues and happy about headcount. And, just over the years, you realize that, it comes down to results, as a business, trying to make sure that you're always doing the right things for the organization. And sometimes that isn't trying to grow when you're not ready for it, or growth just for sake of growth.
Yes, you have to make the right business decisions at the right time.
So let's talk about weight. What would you say, what strategy metric do you think leaders should be mindful of right now?
One of the things that I find really interesting is that if you're letting the headlines panic you, then you're actually in a reactionary mode, right? What I like to do is flip the script and talk to everybody about what's the proactive mode. How do you focus on strategic planning in your business? Whether you're a small company, whether you're a large growing organization, all organizations need to think strategically about their business. So I like to talk to them about a roadmap. How do they want to wait? Where do they want to be 10 years from now? And if you can dream 10 years from now and vividly describe to me what's the vision of the company, then I can help you work backwards and say, then what should the 3-year milestones look like? Then what should this year's 5 biggest accomplishments really be? Things that push you, things that push your team. What are you going to be thrilled and elated to really celebrate at the end of this year? And then we'll just break it down one more time. From 10-year to 3-year to 1 year is not quite good enough in my book. I think companies who only do annual retreats and who only do this once a year, they're missing the boat. Because I know for a fact that whether they typed it out, whether they printed it, whether they're digital, whatever it is that they did with this strategic plan they created, it's collecting dust, so to speak, about 90-ish, 60 to 90 days later, I would say. All the excitement of the crew has waned. They had that great annual retreat. They wrote it all down, and then life happened. So I like to make sure that they break it down one more time and they say, well, if that's where we want to end, the 5 most important things in the race at the end of the year, then what should we be doing in quarter 1? What should we be doing in quarter 2? And every 90 days, they should reset the clock, reset the 13-week sprint. And to me, that's a weighted metric of really showing a healthy organization that you do have long-range goals, you do have a strategic plan, but you've broken it down all the way to what is my next 13-week sprint? What do I need to have achieved? And that way, when you wake up in the morning, your feet hit the ground running. Whereas instead, you might just say, well, I made some progress. I don't like those words and those phrases when people say, well, we're getting a little better. I've seen some momentum in the area. Well, we're not there yet, but we're getting there, right? There's a lot of like soft language and soft words in those kind of things. And I like to set hard deadlines, hard goals. What's the finish line for 13 weeks? Because you guys got to celebrate your wins more often. Don't celebrate your wins once a year. Celebrate them every quarter.
So I heard two things out of that. Being a basketball guy, I make a lot of parallels to sports. And, I kind of heard you saying that, yes, you've got to have a game plan when you show up at the start of the game each year. But then you've got to make those in-game adjustments, those slight changes, those variations that, hey, when we started, it was like this. 3 months later, it's like this. We need to change it up. And then number two, I think I heard you say you've had enough of the "we suck less" messages. Not really saying I'm hitting my goals, but just saying, hey, we suck just a little bit less than we did last month.
Yes, exactly. You got it.
Okay, so getting into our doctor's visit, if you will, I guess for an entrepreneur, for a business owner, where do scaling coaches come in? Where do you guys focus to kind of help them get the most out of that relationship?
So when you're ready to hire a coach, I'd say you're probably in a position where you're no longer a solo entrepreneur. You've got a small team around you, and you've got a few people that you trust that you would put in a boardroom for an all-day strategic retreat, right? That's the level in which you want to start thinking about coaching. And if that's not the level that you're at, that's okay as well. I actually suggest if you think that you're not ready for a coach, but you just want to get started, you want to be sure you're doing the foundation, laying the foundation correctly, this Start to Scale book, that's what I would recommend that solo entrepreneurs, small businesses, people who aren't ready to hire a coach, go out and get the Start to Scale book. It's by Vern Harnish. You can get it on Amazon. And what's great about it is it's going to lay that foundation. It's going to talk about the 10 Rockefeller habits. It's going to build you towards 40 strategic steps that you could put in place. And you could work strictly off that one workbook for 1, 2, or 3 years to grow yourself to the level in which you might want to coach. But those who are coming to myself or all of the other hundreds of other coaches that are scaling up certified worldwide, those individuals, maybe they've grown to about 3 million. Maybe they're sitting around 5 million. They've got a couple of trusted advisors that they want to bring to that boardroom. Maybe they have a director of marketing or of HR or something along those lines, and they'd like to put that team together in a room and do some leadership development and actually like take the weight off their shoulders. They don't want to do the strategic plan as the entrepreneur all by themselves anymore. They want a team of experts around them. They want to listen to other people's advice. And that's when you get a coach, or you can go ahead and get the book as well. That one is going to be Scaling Up. And that Scaling Up book is going to be bigger, thicker, but it's going to have a very specific roadmap in 4 pillar areas of people, strategy, execution, and cash. So the Scaling Up book by Vern Harnish is the one that little bit larger organizations or people who are rapidly scaling, they're experiencing growth pains. If you're growing 20% year over year over year, you cannot tell me that you're not experiencing growing pains. Like there's a reason that the term growing pains exists. And it is exactly for those reasons, right? We don't live in a perfect world. We should learn from others. We should learn from other business owners and entrepreneurs who came before us and just learn those lessons as quickly as we can.
Now, I did hear you throw out there Rockefeller habits. Can you give me an example of what one of those might be?
Yes, so we have 10 Rockefeller habits, And within each of those habits, there's basically 4 items that you want to master. And one of the things that I think my clients latch onto the fastest and they really enjoy it is getting away from death by meeting and embracing the Rockefeller habits meeting rhythms, making sure that you have a daily huddle, making sure that you have a weekly meeting and a monthly meeting. So the daily huddle is literally 12 minutes or less. You're all standing. I'm sure that some of you have heard of these kinds of things. You might have heard about it in the Scrum methodology and the Agile methodology. Scaling Up has it as well. So it's a daily huddle, and it's literally getting the pulse of the business right there every single day, 12 minutes or less. Then your weekly meeting is about an hour or less. And that weekly meeting is where you can really focus on any kinds of issues and challenges, stucks that you might have had throughout the week in your daily huddle, making sure that you're progressing as a company towards those goals. And then you're going to have a monthly meeting. And it's okay if the monthly meeting's a little bit longer than an hour, because maybe you're going to bring in a speaker or do a lunch and learn or have a book club and really expand on the leadership development of the team. But the most important thing you're going to do in that monthly meeting is look back at your one-page strategic plan and do a 30-day check-in, a 60-day check-in, and a 90-day check-in of those rocks. What did you decide that you were going to do as a company? I will do blank by this due date. And you're going to check in every 30 days and ask every single person on your team, are they hitting those goals? So if you can embrace the Rockefeller habits, even if you're a smaller company or a larger company, you're going to see that pace in which you grow rapidly scale accountability, because everybody in your company knows exactly what they need to do, and you can trust, but you can verify that they are getting it done as long as you have daily huddles, weekly meetings, and monthly meeting rhythm.
Now, when you first get involved with an organization who's trying to add these meetings and rhythms and metrics and other things, what would you say the kind of the blind spot is that maybe holds back organizations from embracing scaling up?
One of the blind spots for me is actually the customers who embrace the meeting rhythms that I just discussed. They will see their accountability soar faster than clients who feel like, oh, I already have a bunch of meetings. My meetings I already have, they're going to work for me just fine. Each of my teams has a meeting. I have a Tiger team meeting. I have one-to-ones with all of my direct reports. And they just start listing out this laundry list of death by meeting that they have that doesn't sound to me very efficient, but they feel emotionally tied to it. It's how we've always done it. And so that's one thing that to me is a bit of a blind spot, is really truly take a look at your calendar. And when you read Start to Scale, and when you learn about the Rockefeller habits and the meeting rhythms, look at your calendar and ask yourself, do I need to be in every single one of these meetings? And do I need to be in the full length of the meeting? Because some of my clients have a blind spot and they're sitting in an hour and a half long team meeting, but they're only there for 15 minutes of the financial segment. So why did they sit there the rest of the time just to be polite when they could have been more efficient doing other things? So sometimes you really can feel emotionally tied to what we've done before, and you might not be open to new ways of trying things.
Gotcha. It almost sounded like you said people can't scale up because they're afraid of all the extra meetings from scaling up. But the reality is they're already in too many meetings. They're there at the wrong time, at the wrong ones, and they just need to be more organized and more structured. So are you kind of saying having a better understanding of what meetings you're in, or just scheduling more intently, or having more structure to what you're doing?
Yes, all of the above. We would love for people to literally just pause the types of meetings that they used to have, embrace a new system of daily, weekly, monthly to test whether it would be more efficient. Because so far, I haven't had any clients tell me that it's not more efficient. It's just a matter of letting go of the past and embracing something new. And I'll give you an example. So sometimes people find that they are siloed Like this department has a weekly meeting and this department has a weekly meeting and this other department has a weekly meeting. Or maybe they're all having stand-up meetings. Why aren't they having them together? Why can't they learn from each other? Why can't the experiences and the shares of missteps and issues and problems be together? It doesn't always have to be together, but what if you tried it? Because a lot of times your customer does feel those silos. They feel that lack of communication or that pinball back and forth. And you could possibly be more effective if you had that weekly meeting together, or maybe the monthly meeting together. Maybe the daily huddles you do continue to have individually. But those are the things that we like to test and try to see what works best for every industry, for every company. You're all different. But the goal is more efficient meetings, more effective meetings, and less death by meeting where every single thing has to be siloed and every single project has to have its own meeting. Let's just question that. Does it have to?
Yeah. I think questioning yourself and evaluating the results is important. Now, also, I heard you mention in your discussion, it sounded like 4 pillars that you kind of focus on in your efforts. Is one of those pillars more important than the other, or is there some sort of relationship between them that someone needs to be mindful of?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we focus on people, strategy, execution, and cash. And here's my favorite part about being a scaling up coach. We need to focus wherever you're hurting the most, wherever you see the most
Okay.
opportunity for growth. So it's not a one size fits all prescription for everybody. Start on page 1 and work your way to the end. If you're having the most difficulty with revenue, top line revenue, you don't feel like you have the right marketing, the right sales, the right products, you're not getting the right response from the market, people aren't magnetized towards you, then we need to start in the strategy section, because strategy is the cure for that. And those are the worksheets and the tools and the case studies and examples that we should focus on. But a different client might come to me and say, I'm really struggling in the cash flow area. I feel as though we've sold more and more and more year after year, but my bank account is less and less and less. And I just don't understand where all the money's flowing. It's flowing in, but somehow it's flowing out. And where are my leaky buckets? And what are the 7 levers for me to be able to get better cash flow, or for me to be able to get better profit? And so we'll focus and hone in there, run those financial reports, be able to get them some answers. So some people will be people, and that's where they need to be. Others are strategy. Others are on execution. They tell me, we got the right people on the bus. I know I've got them in the right seats. I've got a strategic plan. I think I have an amazing strategy. Why are they just not doing those things they're supposed to do? Why do we
Right.
just not execute every single day with consistency? So that's when we would focus on execution, Rockefeller habits, meeting rhythms, being more efficient for them. So any of those 4 are a great starting point. Nobody has to hold themselves to the exact same standard across the board. It's where are you hurting the most right now, and where do you want to focus first?
See, just like a physician, tell me where it hurts, and that's kind of where we're going to work. Of course, just to be a little bit different. I guess growth is fun, until you realize your processes were held together with duct tape and good intentions. So I guess when you're hurting, you got to figure out how to upgrade those Band-Aid solutions into real ongoing systems, kind of before they trip you up at scale.
Yes, exactly.
How did you get involved with, scaling up as a coach?
I have been a certified Scaling Up International coach now for 6 years, but my journey with the Scaling Up program and with Vern Harnish is much longer than 6 years. I
Okay.
was a customer. I was a customer of Scaling Up. I got the book, I read it, I downloaded the free worksheets. I went to a couple of public workshops with other entrepreneurs and batted around some ideas. And I was able to grow that company that I was a CEO of. We were a technology company. We didn't do amazing IT work. We did the opposite. Instead of the hardware, we did the software side of things, and we were building it from scratch. We weren't buying it. So we were helping people to build mobile apps. We were helping people to build databases, websites, things along those lines. And that company had all of the right ingredients, but they just hadn't had the right mixture to scale. And as I read the book and as I used a worksheet, we did a little better and a little better and a little better. So I was kind of the proof in the pudding kind of gal, where I knew it had worked. I scaled that company 600% its size. And when I decided, well, what's next for me, right? Am I going to be in this particular field forever? Or where would I be passionate to move on to? And I decided that was mentoring, that was coaching, that was keynote speaking. That's really what I love to do. So I flipped the script from being a client of scaling up and learning all the processes and bootstrapping it from scratch straight out of the book to flipping to becoming a certified coach so that I could help other companies do the same thing that I had done for that company.
Now, I guess on your journey, was there anything along the way that was just like a great epiphany that, oh my goodness, as a business, I never thought of it this way. Now as a coach, it makes so much sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that's really interesting is that when you're going through scaling up certification, you're learning so many different aspects of the people, strategy, execution, cash, right? And you're always going to have that light bulb moment where you look back and you say, what if? And so not just myself, but there's a lot of other scaling up coaches that some of their what ifs whenever they became a coach was looking back on their exit, the exit of their business. And if are you scaling towards a purpose? And is your entrepreneurial purpose to exit your business, to sell it, to actually get, a 10x multiple or even higher of all this hard-earned work that you've done? So that's one thing that I had a light bulb moment on, not that I was needing to have exited that company, but the other coaches that are surrounding my community when we're going through all of our training and our lessons learned, to hear how many of them say, I wish I would have before I sold. I wish I would have this before I sold. I wish I would have that before I sold. So what was really fun for me is in the last 2 years, I just took a deep dive, Steve, into that area and really leveled up my game on how to help people build exit strategies for their business, not just scaling up strategies and growth strategies, but if they were wanting to exit in an exponential way and really have a windfall, what are the things that they should be thinking about? And I took all those lessons learned from all those coaches and went to several additional trainings. And that's what I'm trying to focus on this year. I've got about 4 different clients who have intentions towards moving in that direction.
Okay.
And we're working in the background on making sure that their exit strategies are sealed up and they are ready to go. When they want to go to market, they have all their ducks in a row, and I have helped them get there. And that's really exciting. It's an exciting evolution to the scaling up process and thinking about scaling up towards an exit.
So if you're an operations manager or a small business owner and you're just starting to think about an exit, what should they be doing to build value in their business or get ready? What kinds of things are you talking about there?
I definitely would tell them that if that's their thought process, somewhere about 3 years before they're really ready to exit, they should go ahead and pick up the phone and talk to a coach. Even if it's not me, any coach, some trusted advisor, they need to reach out and start to find out what I don't know, right? So you
Sure.
only know what you know. And running your business is very different than exiting your business. So I would say reach out at least 3 years in advance, because there are sometimes things tax wise or assets and liabilities wise that you actually need time to change on your books or to fix a certain way so that a buyer sees it as the most advantageous use of what are my best assets? What are my best capabilities? Do I have all of my processes documented with SOPs? Do I have an updated org chart? Do I have all of my contracts, and are they wet signature contracts, organized in files? Do I have good backup systems? Do I have an IT person who's given me redundancy in my business? All of these infrastructure things matter, and you can't just decide today, I want to sell my business tomorrow, and pretend like you have enough time to get your ducks in a row. So anywhere up to 3 years before you're ready to exit, I would say talk with a trusted advisor who has a checklist, things that you can look through. There's a lot of times a score that people like myself can give you that say how ready you are to entertain a potential buyer.
Yeah, I've heard that before about you don't want to try and sell when you're ready to sell. You want to be prepared to sell when you get that offer that might be that offer you're looking for, or that opportunity. So, don't leave money on the table by waiting until the last minute.
It's great advice.
Now, you brought up systems. What are buyers looking at when they're, I guess, evaluating an organization in regards to their technology and systems, and what do our listeners need to know there?
Yeah, they are really going to look for an organization that's a well-run machine, right? Because it depends on who the buyer is. Is private equity going to be the buyer? Is it going to be another entrepreneur in your niche or your field who buys you? Or is it going to be a strategic buyer? And they all have different reasons behind why they want you as what I'm going to call a piece of their puzzle, right? So they've been building this puzzle, they've been building this picture, but they're missing this piece. And you have it. And they want to plug you into what they have already developed. And that's why they're looking at you to buy and to put it into that asset class of capabilities that this company is building. So you want to better understand from a different vantage point, from different viewpoints, what are those people seeing in your business? Because if you know why they want to buy you, which puzzle piece you fit for them, then sometimes really smart people can reverse engineer how much they should pay you for your business. Not just a financial EBITDA multiple. Most of you have probably heard of that, right? I'm $1 million company, my EBITDA is XYZ, and I should trade at 4x, or my industry is 7x. A strategic buyer who sees you as the perfect puzzle piece to complete their picture, they'll go above that. You can get 10x, 12x, maybe 15x of your EBITDA for your business. But if you've never put in the thought process of how your puzzle piece could fit different industries, different adjacents, different buyer pools, then you haven't done your pre-homework to know how to leverage and strategize and do the right marketing message of your business to find the right buyers. So that's an important thing that an advisor helps you do, is discover your Rembrandts in the attic, so to speak.
Now, you'd mentioned that for kind of a smaller organization, you might recommend they purchase the book and self-implement on their own. But I guess if you're a leader owner who's thinking that an exit feels, way out in the future, are there like some small moves they could start making today that, will end up paying off down the road on that journey?
Yes. Some solo entrepreneurs haven't really had a controller full-time on their staff. So maybe they need to look at a fractional CFO, or maybe they don't have an IT person full-time on their staff, and they need to take a look at having an IT managed services company take a look at their documentation. They want to take a look at what are my strengths and what are the holes or the weaknesses, the areas that I could plug up. And you don't have to plug them up by throwing people at problems. You don't have to all of a sudden hire 5 additional full-time employees to plug every single one of those holes that you don't have today. You can look at vendors and contractors and subcontractors, and you can look to be able to scale in a way that's efficient and affordable for you, just to make sure that you're dotting your I's, you're crossing your T's, and you're running your business in a way that if I came to purchase it, it could continue to run without you. The contracts are clear, the templates are clear, the standard operating procedures are written somewhere. I understand where all your files are. I have long-term contracts with clients. Maybe people are set up on ACH bank draft or credit card draft, and you've got some recurring income. People are looking at those things, and it adds value to your company. The more organized you are, the more ready you are to go to market, and most importantly, that you understand your marketing message of what are my assets and my capabilities that I'm putting out for sale. What am I best at that can be my puzzle piece that fits that perfect strategic buyer's niche?
Gotcha. Now, I don't want to, you know me, I've got a very tangential mind, but when I'm hearing you talk about exit planning, I'm almost hearing you talk about estate planning, like it's going to be uncomfortable. It's easy to avoid, but it's absolutely essential, if you want to leave on your terms. And so, I hear you saying you really have to lay the groundwork now that I guess a cleaner exit starts with smarter decisions that you're making today, even if they're small ones.
Yes, and all the things that I'm talking about, all the financial things, the operational things, the checklist of stuff to put in place, it pales in comparison to the emotional and the mental status of where is that entrepreneur at in their journey? Are they really ready to let go? What will they be moving on to do afterwards? What's that life after really look like for them? How are they going to keep themselves busy? What are they going to do afterwards whenever they get this wonderful payout and they found a strategic buyer who gives them 12x their EBITDA, and all of a sudden they're what? They're on a beach in Mexico? They're traveling Europe? Are they spending more time with their family? Or are they crying at night because all of a sudden this thing that was like their baby that they nurtured and cared for, usually 60, 70, 80 hours a week for decades, is not theirs anymore? So there's a lot of head space and a lot of head trash to talk through as well, not just the checklist of things that we have to do right, but we have to take care of the entrepreneur as a person and as an individual and really understand what's that vision of life after entrepreneurship look like. You going to go start another business, or are you going to retire?
Yeah, I mean, definitely as a business owner, I define myself a little bit through the company that in my mind's eye, the company is me and I am it. And, I'd love to play basketball, 5 days a week for the rest of my life, but I'm struggling to play 3 days a week. So I can see where that would be emotional, create kind of an emotional disconnect of, I was after this dream, but maybe that dream isn't practicable, or I lose a little bit of my identity. Where do I go from here? Do you find a lot of the people trying to exit are dealing with that emotion?
They are dealing with an identity crisis. Yes, 100%. And I will also tell you the most random factoid that almost
Okay,
all of them deal with. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
It's a little geek speak, it's a little IT, but it's the truth.
Okay.
Nobody realizes how entangled they are with their business until when they sell it, guess what went with it? The main cell phone number that they've used for the last 20 years, the main one and only email address that they used for everything in their personal life for the last 10, 15 years. So part of that 3-year gap of getting yourself ready is mentally, emotionally, operationally, financially, and then this little thing over here that's very annoying to entrepreneurs, that the day they sell, they get the check, the money's in the bank, they think, wait a minute, my Netflix password, my Apple ID, every single thing I've ever logged into in my entire life is tied to an email address that I no longer have access to, and I can't even reset my password. Little things like that will drive you nuts.
Definitely. I got in the habit of using my work email address for everything, and it's been that way for 23 years now. So I do not look forward to that time of separating all of that. Or actually, it might be good, when you get 1,000 emails a week and you bemoan all your email. Maybe that clean cutter email address is a good thing, as long as you have your credentials.
Yes, exactly. Just one more thing to think through.
Man, you're just lumping it on us, Stacy. I can't believe you do that to us.
Got to drop the factoid.
Now, let's take a step back. Is there kind of an like an ideal type of company who you feel would get the most out of scaling up?
I think that there's two paths. If you're on the startup and scale up kind of journey as a smaller business, I think that you go with the Start to Scale book, this one here. And I think
Okay.
that that's the journey that you really start with. And at some point on that journey, you're going to think, okay, I've mastered these Rockefeller habits. I have seen exponential growth. I'm now to the point where I feel like I have growing pains. I am scaling and I need additional help. I only know what I know, right? What got you here won't get you there. That moment when you have that, then reach out to a coach, start to read the actual scaling up, go through the people, strategy, execution, cash. In fact, you should be able to find, I know that we are going to drop it on this podcast here. We'll give you a link to it, but you should be able to find a scaling up assessment. And that assessment, you can take it in about 6 minutes or less. Just answer a couple of questions about your company, and it'll give you a score of how did you score in people, strategy, execution, and cash. Because sometimes that's an eye opener. You might tell me on the phone, well, I am excellent at execution and I am excellent at cash. And all of a sudden you take the quiz and your score shows differently. Or better yet, Steve, you could send the quiz to your leadership team and ask them their opinions. Because that's when the light bulb moment goes off for the entrepreneur, is when the rest of the leadership team scores it and you see that maybe you scored it here, but they scored it there. And now it's time to have an honest and truthful conversation about what we need to do different.
And is that an anonymous survey so the owner doesn't know who sent it or who responded how?
Yes. As a coach, I always offer the link. The link is free. The survey is free. And I always do it anonymous because I think that's important to have that trust and that vulnerability and allow the leadership team to be genuinely honest. So the CEO doesn't need more people to pat him on the back and say that this is a great organization. That's really not going to get them anywhere. Right? It's just going to make them smile and sleep well, but it's not going to get them to whatever that next level is. Honesty, transparency, and communication of challenges, weaknesses, and opportunities for growth and advancement. Those are really the deeper conversations that when your leadership team is in a safe space to have those, that is what you're really looking for. And that's why people ask me to facilitate the meetings, to be honest. A company can clearly have a dynamic leader. They can be a great keynote speaker. They can have all the leadership development books and read one every single week. But when the owner is the person running the meeting and standing up at the front and asking people to engage in what are our weaknesses, what are our opportunities, what should we try again, what should we not try again, there's a little bit of a wall there. There's a disconnect because it's not genuinely a safe space because it's not a third-party facilitated meeting. And that's really what I advocate for. Whether you go with scaling up, whether you go with another type of coaching company, there's a lot of great types of interesting platforms and programs out there. But what's most important is that you have a third-party facilitator helping you with these offsites, these annual retreats, those types of things, because you want that safe space. And I'm not positive that you can get it. You asked me earlier if I had kind of an aha moment of when I was a client versus a coach. And that one was for sure one of them. I think that I could have done a better job bringing in a facilitator for those meetings because I didn't realize how much I might steer the conversation. An example, core values. Well, I'd been with the company long enough that I remember exactly why we chose those core values. I remember every story, every study, every survey, and why we chose it. So they're right?
Yes.
But now we've hired another person and another person, and finally somebody was just honest and kind of raised their hand and was like, I don't really know if I connect with that core value. And it was a shocking moment to me, and I was willing to accept it and hear it and change it. But I noticed in that moment, how long have they been feeling like that? And had I not asked the question, they would have never told me. So it's very interesting when you bring in a facilitator for your meetings versus you doing the meeting. You might have a few moments where it hurts your feelings and they say something and you think, you could have told me that yesterday in the office. Why didn't you just say that to me yesterday, right? But we have to realize that even when we're amazing leaders, there can be a little bit of an intimidation factor with just our title. Even if we're not an intimidating person, it can be a little intimidating. And so you don't want to bring that into your strategic planning.
Yeah, I got to say that's definitely been, that was one of our struggles is that for me, being a business owner, I'm not an expert in everything, but sometimes I feel like I'm an expert in everything because I spend so much time researching and stuff and, trying to be a coach and facilitate, trying to keep everyone on track. And so I had the opposite issue of I would hold my tongue to see what everyone else said. So it kind of took my voice out of things a lot of times. And then because I was facilitating, it felt sometimes maybe a little confrontational, or when people would bring up things in conversation, they're afraid of, well, is this going to hit Steve the wrong way? Or is someone going to be frustrated? How is this going to be taken? And, having a facilitator did make a huge difference in both of those aspects.
You bring up a great point. I have had a lot of clients say, woo, it was so nice for the first time meeting you when I got to sit in the chair and actually participate, use my brain throughout the whole 8-hour day, think strategically, work on my business and not really be in it. That's the first time I ever got to be a part of the strategic planning. And that was just such an interesting thing for clients to be able to recognize the very first time out of the gate, that it feels so different to participate rather than facilitate.
Gotcha. What else? Anything else? You talked about, actually, I forgot to ask, the books you'd referenced. I love reading, but because I read so much now, I don't like reading books. Are those available on Audible, or can people listen to them? Okay.
Yes, they are available on Amazon. You can get them on Audible. They also are translated into several different languages. If anybody happens to be watching the podcast today, and maybe we've reached far beyond the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and there's somebody in a different corner of the world who would like to read it in their native language, they can look it up and see. It's been translated into about half a dozen languages so far.
Okay. How do you think this fills up with like having a coach and things we talked about in the planning meetings? How do you think employees receive organizations that have a coach and go through all this planning and other things? What's, staffing is one of our biggest challenges today as a small business. How do you feel that it impacts that?
I really think that we have got a couple of generations now that are working in our workforce who are just desperately wanting a career path. They want to know, what's my personal roadmap? Where am I going with this company? Where's my growth trajectory? And so showing them that you care enough about them to put them on a leadership team, to put them in a room for an 8-hour day and to strategize about the business. There's such a respect factor of leveling up in your career to be a part of a leadership team and once a quarter be asked to go to these retreats. It's a privilege and an honor. And I think that they really see it as employees as such, and they take their job seriously. If the owner and the entrepreneur says, please be brutally honest with me, these are the closed doors, this is where we got to say it, right? Then they really do. They will speak up. They will have a voice. They'll raise their hand. They'll make sure that their coworkers' voices are heard. And you really get a better sense, a better pulse for what it's like for your culture, for your employees, maybe even for your onboarding and your training in any kind of development that you have, because now you've got these individuals who care about the company's trajectory and where you're headed, and they feel like they're a part of a team of getting that done. So I do think the employees really enjoy it, and I think it allows you the opportunity to fulfill that emotional need of, where's the journey taking me? What's the next step in my career? How can I get, added level of respect in this particular role that I have?
Now, anything an owner or leader should do if they feel like they're let's say you're having your meetings and you feel like people aren't, how sometimes you can kind of feel like people aren't being as honest with me as I would like them to be. Is there anything an owner or leadership could do to kind of make sure that everyone is part of the solution, that they're actually speaking up and speaking their mind?
Yeah, so two things. If you're in the group facilitated session, your facilitator should be doing that for you. I take great pride in reading people's body language, in noticing when people are looking down and scribbling on their paper, whenever their shoulders are going up or they're not breathing because they've gotten very defensive about a certain topic. And I call on names. I make sure that there's equal talk time. If I ask a question, I make sure that everybody has answered. So make sure that whatever facilitator you're using is helping you in that group environment. But the second thing would be individually. Let's say you're not doing strategic planning, you don't have a coach, you don't have a facilitator, but you're just noticing this in your business. I highly recommend considering, when was the last time you went outside your four walls? When was the last time that you invited that particular employee to breakfast or to have coffee before work or to go with you to lunch? Because sometimes when we're in the four walls, it's very difficult to break them down. You can't break down the walls when you're inside the walls. And sometimes all it takes is literally a change in venue. And on the car ride to go have tacos, you're having a different conversation. And then they're starting to relax over tacos. And now they're starting to be just a little bit more open and vulnerable to the questions that you're asking and a little bit more honest on the car ride back. It's just a matter of like a deeper bonding experience than everything always being black and white professional in the office.
Honestly, I like the sound of that. I love that as a core value. We relax over tacos. That sounds like something we need to add to our core values. You know what? Yeah. I think I'll take off the core value that says Steve is 6'2" and replace it with we talk over tacos.
Talk over tacos. I love it.
Talk over tacos. Well, anything else you want to add? Any final point as we kind of start to get to the end here?
I would just encourage entrepreneurs who are listening that no matter what's going on in your business right now, if it's rapidly scaling and you're having those growing pains, or whether you're feeling a little doom and gloom and the economy's getting to you and some external factors of things that are happening in the news are getting to you, you're still in control. You're in control of the chaos, or you're in control of what's happening. Pick up a book, talk to a coach, call a confidant, ask a fellow entrepreneur if they can go to coffee, but get outside of your head and listen to some other voice around you to kind of pick you back up, get you back in the mode, and get in the groove of working on your business and not just feeling reactionary working in your business. But you are in control at all times. I believe in you. I know you can do it.
Okay. Is that your one big takeaway from the day that you want people to take away from it?
It is, honestly. I think my one big takeaway, a prescription, so to speak, would be believe in yourself, but know that you don't have to do everything by yourself. You can ask help of others.
I'd like to think that we were perfect, but for us as an SMB ourselves, when I look back, I think sometimes we scaled by accident. That things were one crisis at a time, so it was maybe less scaling up and more barely holding on at times, trying to get through the journey.
You are not alone. Others have felt it too.
Well, hey, thanks for sharing with us, Stacy. Lots of good stuff there to unpack. So hopefully, if today's episode sparked a few aha moments, then mission accomplished. Because as you heard from Stacy, scaling your business, whether it's to grow stronger, operate smoother, set yourself up for an exit, it doesn't mean that you're doing it all alone. And in fact, you shouldn't. You should build a tribe, have your team around you kind of supporting you through it. The best leaders aren't the ones who do everything. They're the ones who build strong teams, implement tools, create trusted partnerships, things that keep the organization running, even when they're not in the room. And hopefully they can stay more sane by having coaches like you, Stacy. Our whole business is about outsourcing finding the things that we're great at and finding others to help us in those other areas. So making sure that you've surrounded yourself with advisors and even peer organizations. A lot of times they can be a great help for a company. Here we try to help growing business by taking IT off the worry list so you can focus on other things. But, hey, if you're scaling up, gearing up, or waking up to tech emergencies, that's when we want to talk to. For all the business stuff, that's where you need to reach out to Stacy and talk to her out there. Now, Stacy, I did get the quiz, the QR code, so I'll make sure and include that in our show notes so that people know how to get to that link. But how can people reach you if they want to reach out directly?
Yes, if people are interested, they can reach out directly. My website is just my name. So if you can spell my name, you can make it there. It's StacyEads.com. It's StacyEads.com. And you can reach out to me at any time. I'm also available on LinkedIn for new connections, and maybe that's even easier than the website.
Nice. And you can always reach me as well through our website, fulcrum.pro. You can also reach me at my email, thedoctor@fulcrumgroup.net. And I'll have links to my LinkedIn page out there as well. So thanks, everyone. Be sure to follow or comment on our stuff at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever it is that you prefer to consume your podcast information from. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time. The doctor is out. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.